Hey everyone, welcome back. I wanted to offer you a short introduction to the content that we'll be exploring in January. I'm putting together a short course for you that I hope can support you to balance your system. We're taking a look at the Samkhya philosophy of yoga, and then I'm breaking up a part of that philosophy into 3 classes so that you might be able to connect to how you're feeling and then choose a class to balance that out or to get you moving into the direction of calm, steady, aware action, let's say. So the Samkhya philosophy believes that our existence and everything in the universe is composed of 2 parts. One of those parts, called Purusha, never changes. It's the background or the field of awareness. Perhaps some people connect to it as the soul. Or it's the sky where all the weather happens. It's the blank canvas. And then we have another part called Prakriti, which is really everything that we experience, because everything that comes into our mind, it has the nature of changing phenomena. Anything in the natural world that has a life, birth, death cycle, anything in the universe that's moving, is Prakriti. And within that, there's said to be 3 different parts or 3 different qualities. And these qualities actually need each other for the life, birth, death cycle and the aftermath of death. And that's what we'll be looking at. And we'll be taking a look at these 3 qualities. And we tend sometimes to move in the direction of one of those qualities, and they need each other. So say we're feeling one of them, we can balance ourselves by bringing in a little of its opposite to create a state of harmony or integration, wisdom, clarity, kind of what the yoga practice is aiming to get towards. The 3 qualities are called tamas, rajas, and sattva. So tamas is going to be our first class, and tamas is the quality of regeneration, heaviness, sleep, stability, constancy. And when it's out of balance, it can be dull, inert, and not much action takes place. Then we can look at rajas, which is the opposite to that. So you can imagine that that's our cup of coffee, that's our propulsion, that's our passion, that's our desire. And a lot of activity takes place in this rajasic state. When out of balance, it creates anxiety, right? Or a state of overwhelm, or perhaps overly competitive nature. And then just going back to tamas, when it's out of balance, it creates depression. An inability to change. So maybe a sense of digging your heels in and not wanting to move. And then our third quality is sattva, and that's our most balanced state. So if you think about a vesica piscis, where these 2 kind of oval structures overlap, with a little bit of tamas and a little bit of rajas, you get sattva. So it's a balance of these 2. Maybe we're looking at the balance also between the left and the right side of the brain, the more linear aspects and driven aspects, and the aspects that maybe are a little bit more creative and tend to be happy to be where they are. So when we overlap these, we get the balance between the 2. We could also look at this in nervous system terms, where we have our parasympathetic branch of our nervous system, which helps us rest and heal and digest and regenerate our cells. And then we have the stimulating part of our nervous system, the sympathetic part, which gets us going, which runs from the tiger, which gets things done. So we might look at these with pranayama, breathwork techniques. I really want to look at them in a structure of forward folding is generally in yoga therapy a way to work with anxiety, and back bending, back extension, spinal extension, is a way to work with depression. And then sattva, just to come back to that, we can't always stay in a sattvic state, which is harmony, integration, wisdom, clarity. We might be able to broaden that a little bit, but it does have ebbs and flows in life where that state sort of crumbles. and moves towards one of the other states. And then there's a cycle that continues. You might even look at a birth, life, death cycle, where in the beginning, the baby's quite tamasic. There's a lot of rest, not too much activity happening. And in the midlife, we're very rajasic, where there's a lot of action happening and purpose and motivation. And then we might move towards a sattvic state where there's gratitude and integration and reflection and wisdom and clarity. I've heard this before. You can think about these states like you're reading a bedtime story to a child. You begin the story, like maybe the story starts slow, it has a tamasic quality, but it's building something. There's some stability in character development. And then there's action, right? There's the climax, there's the rajasic state. And then there's this natural progression towards a more sattvic state where there's clarity, there's this tying up of these loose ends. And then when the caregiver says the end, the child feels that completion, perhaps, of the story, if it's a good story. And there's a sattvic state. And there's almost like a prolonged pause, a big sigh. And then the child might say, again? Where that sattvic state crumbles and then it turns into a rajasic state, like more. Let's do it again. And this is just a natural flow. So the yoga practice is working with transforming tamas, balancing rajas, and cultivating sattva. But it's not all about getting to sattva, because sattva is changing. So it doesn't just stay. It doesn't just stay. And if we grasp onto sattva, we're becoming rajasic. And so it's more about leaning back a little, getting that bigger picture, and just being aware that these things change. And so we can also balance ourselves out with physical forms, breath work, and our imagination. And that's what I wanted to do. Once we dive into these practices, we might get a chance of, like, say I'm feeling really lethargic, something that I might want to do is extend my spine gently. And all of the classes are going to be pretty low to the ground, working with really good technique. They're all going to feel fairly balancing because we'll activate a little bit, but then we're going to bring in some of the opposite at the end of the class and through the class. That's why we do posture, counter posture. Our tamasic class, which we'll start with, will be forward folding. Our rajasic class is going to be back extension. In the sattvic state, we're going to work with twisting. So we're working with rebalancing the spine and coming into a state of neutral, a state of center. So I hope you love these classes. Please shout out in the comment section and let me know how they're going for you and how you are feeling. I know other people in the community really love to hear how the practices are going for you as well. Peace.